All right, enough of that. Let's get to today's question. Who would win in a fight? Howard the Duck or Detective Chimp? Now, for those of you who don't know about Howard the Duck, let me catch you up real quick. Howard the Duck is a cynical, sarcastic talking duck from another dimension who was brought to our world through a science experiment gone wrong. He has all the typical duck traits, like being very flat-footed, getting frustrated at not being taken seriously, and he also has webbed feet. He was originally created by Steve Gerber and Carmine Infantino in 1973, first appearing in the now-defunct issue number 6 of Adventure into Fear. He is most well known for his self-titled comic series, which ran from 1976 to 1985, as well as a film released in 1986. And if you think you're having a bad day, just remember it could have been much worse. Howard was once trapped in the body of a human, but fortunately, the side effects wore off after 5 days. Imagine how awful that must have been. 5 days as a human. Ooh, I bet the whole experience changed him as a person. You can't spend that much time as a human without, I don't know, experiencing something. It'd be like if I spent 5 days as a YouTube comment and then came back and tried to explain to people what it was like. I mean, I get angry every time I read them, but what else do they teach you? Anyway, Howard's adventures over the years have seen him team up with such notable heroes as Spider-Man, Nick Fury, and even Howard the Duck. How meta is that? Now, if you've ever wanted to see what would happen if Howard the Duck were to team up with himself, I present to you an alternate reality where Howard the Duck teams up with Howard the Duck. Moving on. Though, if you've never heard of Detective Chimp before, that's totally understandable. First appearing in 1954, Detective Chimp is a chimpanzee who attends the Jungle Academy, where he learns the skills of science and deduction from his professor, Bobo. Becoming a detective, he uses his intellect and deductive reasoning abilities to solve mysteries in his own comic book series that ran for a total of 12 issues between 1954 and 1955. But I am happy to report that he did eventually return and has since made numerous appearances in various DC comics. In fact, he's such a great detective, he's even solved cases for the likes of Batman himself. So when it comes to brains, Detective Chimp has got 'em. But when it comes to fighting prowess, not so much. And that's the reason why today's fight is actually happening. In the original story that these two characters first meet in, Howard the Duck is relaxing in his apartment when suddenly he finds himself attacked by none other than Detective Chimp. Apparently, there had been a crime in town, and Detective Chimp had followed the trail of clues straight to Howard's door. Howard, confused and annoyed, demands that Detective Chimp leave, but he refuses until Howard agrees to help him find the perpetrator. When Howard says no, Detective Chimp punches him. So yeah, this fight is pretty one-sided. Despite Howard's better judgment, though, he does end up helping Detective Chimp out, and the two end up bonding over their love of jazz music. However, once the case is closed, Detective Chimp immediately turns on Howard again, declaring that he knew he could count on the dim-witted duck to do all the work for him while he took all the credit. Howard, understandably enraged, then attacks Detective Chimp, beginning one of the funniest fights ever. But wait, rewind. Why exactly was Detective Chimp attacking Howard in the first place? Well, it all began earlier that same day when Howard accidentally stepped on a banana peel and slipped, landing right on top of Detective Chimp. At first, he thought nothing of it, but soon realized that he had landed on none other than Detective Chimp. Of course, he immediately apologized, but Detective Chimp was furious and demanded that Howard pay for dry cleaning for his suit, which Howard refused to do, claiming that he had no money. This is what led to their first encounter later that night, when Detective Chimp broke into Howard S.'s apartment. But when Howard didn't apologize or offer to pay for his suit, Detective Chimp attacked. "You're not going to believe this," Howard said afterward. explaining the whole situation. He jumped me, and then he said that I had to help him. I'd be aiding and abetting a banana peel on the sidewalk. So the fight begins with Howard asking Detective Chimp if he really thinks he can take him. But Detective Chimp doesn't respond, choosing instead to immediately attack. As Howard stated earlier, Detective Chimp is a pretty good fighter, capable of holding his own against Howard. For a bit, Howard manages to land a few solid hits on Detective Chimp, but he always manages to recover quickly and continue attacking. The fight goes on for a few panels, as Howard continues to taunt Detective Chimp, asking him if he's enjoying the beating of his life. But things begin to turn around when Detective Chimp lands a hit on Howard's bill, sending him crashing straight through a wall, out cold. Detective Chimp stands over Howard, gloating about how he'll finally get the last laugh. But Howard is quick to recover and chooses to run away rather than continue fighting. As Howard makes his escape, though, Detective Chimp declares that he'll make sure that Howard pays for what he did to his suit, and we wouldn't expect anything less from a detective. After all, integrity is one of the most important things to any good detective. Howard would go on to cause even more destruction in his escape, smashing a fish tank and several valuable statues before making his way out the front door. All the while, Detective Chimp continues to pursue him, determined to bring him to justice. The fight comes to an end when Howard runs out of the building and into traffic, forcing Detective Chimp to choose between hitting Howard with his car or smashing through the window instead. He decides to do neither, though, opting instead to simply block Howard's path and demand that he pay for the damages. Howard, realizing that he's defeated, throws down his weapon and surrenders. But Detective Chimp isn't interested in weapons. His skills are purely hand-to-hand combat, so he strikes Howard down with a powerful punch to the jaw. With Howard knocked out, Detective Chimp picks him up and carries him back to the apartment, declaring that he's going to make him pay. But in spite of all this, Howard still manages to insult Detective Chimp as he's carried away, calling him a big-headed ape. And that's the story of how Howard the Duck lost to Detective Chimp, which brings us to the question, who would win in a rematch? Would it be Howard or Detective Chimp? Let me know your thoughts. Also, before you go, make sure you check out the rest of the channel and follow me on social media. That's it for today, you guys. See you next time.